Hey guys, it's Missy from Shimmerz, and I have another layout process video to share with you today. Now I have moved from the design team to the education team, so now you can find my process videos for Shimmerz on the Shimmerz YouTube channel as well as my own personal channel. So today's layout was inspired by this beautiful piece of pattern paper from the Amy Tan Finders Keepers collection from American Crafts. I love the pink and the orange colors in this. And so I went through all of my Shimmerz products and pulled out lots of things that were pink and orange or coral in color. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go ahead and prepare my inklings and creamies. And when you get these, they're going to be hard. So you have to spray some water in there and let them sit for a few minutes to soften up, and then you can use your paintbrush to mix them together. So don't think that there's something wrong with them if you get them and they are hard, because that's the way they come. So go ahead and mix them up like this and just let them sit and soften up. And to get the colors in the vibes and the spritz going, you want to take it and roll it between your hands. And I've sped this up, and so I'm really not rolling that fast. But you want to do that instead of shaking it, and that's going to help prevent the nozzle from getting all clogged up. So I'm going to start with this piece of paper from the same collection, and I'm going to add a lot of white gesso to it. And it's just a white piece of pattern paper with some grayish, blackish grid lines on it. And I'm going to scrap that cute little random picture of one of my daughters. And she was just wearing a onesie one day, and her hair was all messy, and she just looked cute. And so I love those random everyday pictures of my kids. And so that's what I'm going to scrap today. And I'm going to use a black and white picture because I want to use all those pinks and oranges, and the colors in the picture just didn't, stand out against those colors. And so I made it black and white. Now this stencil I've had for a while, and I was inspired by Irit, who's also a new education team member, because she uses this stencil a lot, and I'd forgotten about it, and I've seen her use it several times, and it inspired me to pull it out. And I'm just doing your basic sprays here over this stencil with some of the spritz and vibes. And I love the way these pinks and oranges sort of mix together. It's just so pretty. Something else I like to do with my stencil here, once it has all of that ink on the parts that you don't spray through, just flip it over and use it as a stamp. And you're going to get a really cool effect that way as well. So I don't like to waste any product if at all possible. So I do something here that I wind up not liking, and it's not the product's fault. It's just I felt like I did too much over those beautiful flowers, and that's some of the Dazzlers and Dreamsicle. And when I looked at it, I thought that kind of takes away from the flowers. And so what I like about the Dazzlers is they take a little bit of time to dry. So all you have to do is wipe it up if you decide you don't like it. Now it did leave a little bit of color, but I like it because it kind of gives some orange tone up there in the top part of that little sprayed area. So I wanted to still use this Dreamsicle color, but as you can see, the Dazzlers are pretty thick and creamy because they're a texture paste. So I just watered this down and used my brush to kind of add some splatters. And that's one thing that you can do with Dazzlers that's different than your typical, using it over a stencil or something. So I decided that I wanted to create some flowers using inklings and creamies, and I'm going to use this stencil here as my base. I had an idea floating around in my head, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. So I'm going to use the brush here and just sort of paint in the open spots of this flower. And this is going to be messy. I want it to look kind of artsy and messy. It's not going to be a perfect flower. And since I am using liquids here, it's going to run a little bit underneath the parts of the stencil, and that's okay. And it also, if you're going to try this, it's going to depend on how much water and how much paint you put on your brush. You can use just a little bit and it probably wouldn't run as much, but I love how that looks. It's a messy, watercolory looking flower. And so I'm just going to give it a little bit of heat here just to dry it because I want to make a couple of these. And I decided to just use the paper that I used to absorb the excess ink in the beginning, just because it already had some color on it, and anything that's already on there is going to add to what I'm trying to do here. So I decided for this one I'm going to use my finger, and it definitely made a difference. The color wasn't as dark. I think it's because you don't have nearly as much paint on your finger as you do on a paintbrush. And as you can see there, it's a little bit different. It just depends on the effect you're going for. Never be afraid to use your fingers on any of these products, because finger smudging gives you an excellent effect, and it's totally different than a brush. And as you can see there's so much more paint on the brush than when you just barely dip your finger in there. And look how much darker that is. That's what I love about these products, is you can pretty much use anything. You could use a foam brush, you could use, a small paintbrush. So many things that you could do here. And I'm mixing and matching the inklings with the creamies, and look how shiny. So I just love how these turned out. I'm going to fussy cut each of these out, and when you use the inklings and creamies together, you get a really cool effect, because the creamies dry they look satin when they dry. They have this really pretty satin sheen, whereas the inklings have a shimmery, sparkly effect. Look how pretty that is. Oh my goodness. I love, love, love these products. They're so pretty. So I'm going to kind of go overboard here with the pinks and the oranges, but hopefully it's not too Pepto-Bismol for you here. I'm going to stick with this collection here and use some of the papers here. I wanted to use that paper that first inspired me, and I'm just going to use a little bit of it because it is pretty busy. And I'm going to go with a horizontal design here, and I'm just going to kind of create a base for those flowers to sit on and for my photo to sit on. And the cool thing about what I did with those flowers is that when they dry and I cut them out, they just naturally curl up a little bit. And so that's perfect for flowers because it just gives them a little more realistic look. So I'm going to play around here with the design of where I want to put things. You can see how the flowers just kind of stick up there. They're not going to lay flat. And I love that because they're flowers, and it makes them just look so much better, I think. So I'm going to play around with some of the embellishments in this Amy Tan collection, and some of the things just matched so perfectly. I just had to use them. That little sticker there, it matched perfectly. I love the colors, and I love the variations that all of these Shimmerz products have given me here. And that's why I would say the more you can use, the better, because you're going to get such a variety of lights and darks. And when some of the colors blend together, you get a new shade. It's just really fun to experiment with all of these different products and all of the colors. Now I did a little bit of stitching here. You can't really see, but in the middle of all the circles, or not circles, flowers, I did some white stitching, and then I did some pink stitching underneath the horizontal border pieces there. And I'm just doing some splatters here with a couple of the spritz and the vibes. That's another technique I love, is the splatters. And now I'm going to go for some of these rub-ons. I love rub-ons. They're just too fun. Now something I did find is they didn't want to rub on as easily, since I do have some product already on the page. So if you are going to use rub-ons over any type of spray liquid or paint, go very slow and make sure you rub them on pretty good, because with that texture there, they don't want to rub on as good. So I'm going to add a little bit of thread underneath my picture before I stick it down, and I did add a little bit of tissue paper under it. I didn't want to add any more pattern paper under the picture just because I felt like it would be way too much pink, and it just would take away from those flowers. I wanted those pretty flowers to kind of stand out behind the picture and kind of make it look like her face is, kind of coming out of the flowers, if that makes any sense. I do pop it up because those flowers are popped up and they already give dimensions, so it would just make sense for the picture to kind of be raised up as well. And I used orange thread underneath the picture there. So I went through my stash of stamps, and I have not used this set yet. It's a Heidi Swap set that I found on clearance at Hobby Lobby a long time ago, and it's for planners and calendars and things like that. And this is honestly random. I just saw it and thought, I want to use those numbers, and there's no reason or rhyme or reason as to why I wanted to put numbers on this layout. I just felt like doing it. And so I'm going to line up all of the numbers, and I'm just going to stamp them. And they're open. They're not solids, so they're not going to make a huge, bold impact. It's just going to be, a subtle little design element in the bottom there. So I go 1 through 9 And I'm surprised that I actually got them in a straight line. I also added the days of the week there just because. Again, no rhyme or reason. I'm going to use some of those thickers, and these are some little stickers I can't even remember. I got them at Michael's a long time ago, and I use them for little bitty things like this when I want a small word in between big words in my title. And the title is going to be Love This Messy Hair. And I'm going to use my little tweezers there to get the I dotted because it's so tiny I couldn't grab it with my fingers. Now it's white and you can't read it, and so I'm going to take my black Sharpie and outline it so it sticks out. So I played around with the word messy. I used some thickers. I used some other letters, and I wound up cutting that out because it just took way too long. I couldn't decide. And so I thought, if I'm talking about messy hair and I want the title to have the word messy in it, I'm just going to write it kind of messy and cut it out. And so that's what I did here. Sometimes I like to do something like that, and that's how I did it. Now, these are from Glitz. I don't even think Glitz is in business anymore. So these are pretty old, and I think I found these at Hobby Lobby, and I love them. They're shiny, and I really love the quality of these little pink stickers here. So it's going to be Love This Messy Hair, and I tossed and turned over how I was going to finish this title. I was going to do the word hair really big and the word messy really small, but nothing looked right. So I finally just said, you know what, this is what the title is going to be, and this is where it's going to go, and it's going to be fine. And so that's how it was. So now I'm going to play around with some embellishments, and I've got some little flowers here and some feathers and things. I don't wind up using any of the feathers. I think these are from an old studio calico kit called Snippets. I've had it for a long time, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I thought, I'm going to go through there and see what I've got. And so the little black flower and then this little circle that says You're My Fave, I pulled those out. And so I'm going to tuck those in and use those. And I wanted, bits of black here and there. Since the photo is black and white, I've got the black in the title. And so I wanted to make sure that I got some little pops of black here and there. And so the stamping also takes care of that. I do have a couple of crepe paper rub-ons. And then I'm going to pull out a couple of flare buttons. I'm going to use 2 from a Flare for Buttons. And the one on the left that says Smile is an old one from October Afternoon. I think it was from one of the Daily Flash collections. And I'm going to give these, a couple of these little black thread nests, whatever you want to call those, just to kind of add a little more pop of black and to kind of make them stand out a little more. Now this is called Before Dawn. I believe it's a Vibes. And just add a couple of dark splatters there. And it dries almost a silvery gray color. And I'm going to add a couple of these enamel hearts. And then my journaling and the date. And I think that's going to wrap it up. I really, really like how this turned out. I love how I was inspired by one piece of paper and how that color scheme really stood out to me, and I really like it. And I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this. I hope this inspires you to try some of these Shimmerz products. Please let me know if you have any questions on any of these products. Check out our Shimmerz Shorts videos. They answer all your questions about all of these products. And stay tuned for more because I'll be showing you lots of different techniques and things that you can do with all of these products. So thank you so much for joining me, and there is my list of supplies, and have a great day.